Welcome to the Homeschool High School podcast, brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. I'm Vicki, and I am so excited today to talk to Sam Young from Young Scholars Academy. Look, people, this is the coolest thing I have run across in a while for our 2E kids. Those of us who have 2E kids, we know how talented and gifted they are, and sometimes how hard it is to find something really cool to connect with. So let me tell you about Sam real quick, and then we'll get you to talk more about you, Sam. But anyway, Sam Young is the founder and director of Young Scholars Academy. So he's been a 2-time Fulbright scholar. So really, he has a master's in education and cognitive diversity master's degree. Like, this is really cool. So he's neurodivergent. He understands neurodivergent kids. Like, this is so cool for our kids who are 2E. Like this. Anyway, so it's what Young Scholars Academy is a virtual village for teens and younger kids too, right? So, okay, I'm going to mess it all up. So, Sam, Tell us about you and Young Scholars Academy and how it got started, and kind of give us an overview.
Thanks, Vicki, and thanks for having me. I love your podcast, and originally I reached out to families in our village, and I said, "What are the podcasts that you feel like really jive with what we're doing?" And yours was, I think, like the first or second one that was sent in. Yeah, so shout out to you.
Yay.
Young Scholars Academy is a virtual enrichment program. I call us a virtual village, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is just taking a lot of our twice exceptional and differently wired students who are often really steeped in that like deficit-based medical model that we seem to have in society, which, by the way, a lot of us have internalized as adults too.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly struggle with that, looking at what I'm not doing right versus what I am. So the medical model or the deficit-based model is this idea that we like focus on what we're not doing and we need to like bring it up, right? Fix it.
Yes.
And so the vision behind YSA is to help students who are asynchronous, right? Like our kids who have great strengths and great struggles, and really focus on developing their strengths, because that's how they lead meaningful lives. That's how they feel the best. That's how they make meaningful contributions to society. And quite frankly, that's how we all win, right?
Yes.
When they feel good, they do well. Humans are emotional pleasure seekers, right? So we go to the feel goods, and many of our students are really kind of dwarfed, limited, goldfished, by the size of the bowl they're put in, and so often that's because we're looking at just what's not happening, what needs to be happening, instead of where they're already showing up and strong.
Yeah, and that's that deficit model. Our youngsters who grow up, especially into adolescence, seeing themselves as deficit rather than like strength-based. They have gifts and talents and purpose. And so, if you visit, all you moms, go visit Young Scholars Academy and just read the blogs, to give young people the opportunity to see themselves as strengths-based, and a whole like virtual village, with camps and courses and mentors and all to build those strengths, help them to believe in themselves. So
can I tell you like a 30-second story real quick?
I would love a 30-second story.
Okay.
Yes.
Humans are story creatures, right? So, I just came out of a debate class, which is what I was doing right before this podcast. Awesome. And we had a student that came in on the first day, and he was he had a bit of a meltdown about how he's stupid and he doesn't get things right. And I stopped class and said, like, show me the evidence that you're not intelligent, because I don't see that. I only see a really bright person who's really curious, who has lots. And the class did like an intervention. Everybody's in the chat like, well, you asked a great question. And all of a sudden this kid just kind of pepped up and his body language changed. And then he just delivered actually the best speech in a class of 8 kids today on the last day of camp. And so you see when someone realizes that they actually have a lot to give, and they just need someone to hold up a mirror and tell them what their strengths are, because they can't see themselves. And I even use the same language we're using right now. I said, you're a product of the deficit-based system. You're repeating what someone's maybe told you, or you've learned to feel it or think it, and that's not true. And here's evidence. And then today, look at the speech you gave, and everyone was like, great job, so it was amazing.
An affirming atmosphere, like, yay. So Sam, tell us your story. Like, what was your experience in discovering strengths and then starting to create a good community for kids?
I think I'm kind of like that kid in the class I just referenced. I grew up, I always struggled in school. I had ADHD diagnosis in 4th grade. I was always the one where my desk was like attached to the teacher's desk,
Yes.
I just was that one. And I wasn't like a, trouble, so to speak. Like I had good intentions, but the second the work came around, I just had a hard time doing it. I could talk about it. But even as early as like kindergarten, I would like sneak off and do other things that were way more stimulating, like set engineering traps, because that was like stimulating, I wouldn't just play with blocks. I would, build a trap or something. But as I got older, and still now, I always struggled with seeing my own deficits, waking up about what I haven't done and going to bed realizing I haven't done enough, or why does everything take me so long? And it was always a struggle. So high school, college, everything. And it wasn't until I was teaching, I always wanted to be an educator, and I discovered Bridges Academy.
Yes.
And so I then went to Bridges and toured and fell in love, really drank the Kool-Aid, loved the idea of the strength-based programming and making that intentional personal shift, and then helping young people make it. So I taught at Bridges for about 10 years. They started a research center. I did some work there. They started a graduate school. I went there. And then the pandemic hit, and I thought, holy cow, we could do this for the world. Like it was just an aha, like a light bulb moment. I was actually gearing up to leave Bridges and make a micro school where I live here in Los Angeles. And then, of course, that was not viable with the pandemic. So it just kind of happened. It taught a small group of kids, and then it grew and grew and grew as people would say, hey, we have cousins in Texas, or we have, and it just, here we are. We've got about 13 mentors now and about 150 plus families.
Oh my goodness.
So it's really a beautiful thing, and it's always evolving, always growing. But the central tenet is strength-based passion exploration.
Yes, absolutely. And that I was looking at, you have, for the high schoolers, you've got some live courses, you've got summer camp things going on right now, and also a couple of asynchronous courses, which I looked at. There's one on speech and debate, and then one on rats. I lost the
it's executive function.
Yes. And I thought, how cool is that? So do you want to tell us a little bit? First because it's summer right now when we're recording, and you've got camps.
Yes.
So what kind of things are happening in a virtual village for camp?
Yeah, so we've got, so the vision behind the way in which we do learning is based on my college experience, which is, I think, a common experience, which is as follows. History 101 is not as cool as the history of women in Vietnam, right? Like the higher level courses are always cooler.
Yes.
And so our students face these bars, which are their numeric ages and learning differences. So we created a program that would have really niche classes and camps for students, basically regardless of their age. So we have summer camps for 7 to 11-year-olds, one cohort, and then the next is 12 to 16. And the idea is, just as I said, so we have like tools of war, which is like World War I, World War II weapons, robotics, engineering, coding, where you actually design an app. But then we have things like Dungeons and Dragons and Minecraft. We have theater, improv, you name it. We have 17 different camps. And so the goal is to take kids Monday through Friday, give them 1 hour or 90 minutes to be together, and they can take up to 3 camps a day. So they can just do one, or they can be together like 4 hours a day, and just explore their different passion areas and hang out with like-minded kids and be under the tutelage of neurodivergent mentors.
It's just so beautiful, like to go like, okay, I am not the deficit person here. We're doing something really interesting with a cohort, like me.
Yes. And the coolest thing is it's international. We've got like a kid in Switzerland who's taking Minecraft with students in Canada and mostly the US.
Oh,
So
neat.
you've got these kids that are also like incredibly marooned sometimes. They might be the only really asynchronous kid in their school or in their town, and they can come together for an hour a day and just belong. And we had a mom at our last open house. We actually had 3 parents say the same thing after this one mom said it. It like became a phrase here called the YSA glow, which is this idea that, and it's really cute. It's on the website. You can see, but she says, and I just got goosebumps actually. She says, my son has a 24-hour buzz after class, and it just gets him up the next day. It gets him through the next day. And so they try to take classes spaced out at least every 2 days so they can kind of keep that riding that high throughout the week.
That's what we want. You know, all of our kids have a place they belong and their gifts to develop, and to have a community like that just makes me so excited. So, all right. And then how did you choose like camp topics? Is that like, do you have the teachers and mentors come to you and say, hey, this would be fun, let's do this? Like, how does that come about?
Yeah, I guess I didn't fully answer. So let me fully answer your last question. Sorry, I got distracted with the story. But so the summer runs for 9 weeks, and then there's those 2 age cohorts. So that was the only other thing I wanted to say. So we're going into like late August. The topics are a combination. Every semester I ask families, what are your kids interested in right now? And when I notice that there's sort of trends, we build a course. So it's very organic in that way that like if, you know, someone wants something and enough someone's wanted, we'll do it because there's a desire for it and it's probably not happening anywhere else. Another core tenet is just leveraging strengths for us as adults, right? So my mentors, I'll say like, you know, what are your passions? Like, how do you show up? And then we kind of model that for the kids because they're creating content based on what it is that they love and what excites them. And oftentimes that's enough to just get kids. Like we have teachers who have, I think of like our Tools Award, I just gave the example, Nelson, every class Nelson does, it doesn't matter. Like the kids will follow him, or like we have Dr. Jade Rivera, you know, it doesn't even matter what they're teaching. Like they just have these like loyal fans, you know, and the kids just go because they're mentors. And so they're excited to explore something new with the teachers. So it's a combination of what parents and families are looking for and just what the teachers think. And a lot of times I'll see a trend like, you know, everyone's talking about AI right now, right? So we have an incredible Mr. Salch is like, he does robotics engineering and coding. And Mr. Salch, can you do an AI course? And he's like, oh yeah. And he, you know, in 30 seconds taught me the whole history of like this generative AI, and great, let's make that a class. So that's going to be a class this fall. So I also try to do trending things. We've done like crypto, all kinds of things that are, you know, really like, what does the 21st century student need to know, right? Like it's going to be less probably, you know, Shakespeare and geometry, although those things definitely have their place, but I think more understanding like kind of a macro view. What are the things in which that we want our students to be exposed to, and where are schools falling short?
Yeah, and you know, for our homeschoolers who are building like history credits and they're exploring interest kind of history credits, they can take classes with you and log those hours towards their credit. So there's never a wasted moment if there's something that is capturing their attention and they're growing. So
Absolutely.
I really get excited about that. Okay. All right. Now I found the list of the courses that you will have in the fall that are AP. So we got some, you know, some rigorous coursework coming up. So you've got an AP Art, History, an AP Psychology, an AP European History, an AP Government and Politics, and then Adulting and Thriving, Senior Edition, College Secrets Schools Won't Teach. So do you want to tell us a little bit about some of those courses?
So those are unique. So the way that the school years work is that our courses are typically, we have 5 8-week semesters. So it's, you know, semester 1, fall 2, winter, spring 2. But we have all those courses you just mentioned are 9-month school year long courses. And they are all like our college prep ones. So the APs are pretty straightforward, but the idea is, and those are really popular with homeschoolers because that can be difficult to do on your own.
Right.
And so I teach those myself and Nelson, the teacher that I mentioned earlier. And the idea is really, yes, the content, but mainly it's the studenting skills of, how do we write a document-based essay? How do we take a test? How do we take college level Cornell notes? How do you mark up a text? Different things like that. So it's always, the content is what it seems to be about, right? And then there's like the important soft and hard skills that come with that. So that's one of our most popular classes, and those may have already filled up, I'm not sure. And then we have the adulting classes. So when I taught at Bridges, I started a course that was called jokingly Senior Seminar, which was just helping kids get ready for life after high school. I made you cough. That's a good.
You did. Yeah.
I wish I came up with that, but I didn't. I'm not that clever. And so the senior course ended up evolving as when I left and started Young Scholars Academy. I had like all the juniors when I left at Bridges, all the parents. Can you please? And so I said, okay, let's do it. And we created that course, and it's really evolved. So it's probably the most important course I think that a senior can take. And again, we get a lot of homeschoolers. And the idea is that it goes through really 3 phases. One is the sort of ideation. We read like The Alchemist together, and we talk about not just like, what are you going to major in, but like, what are you called to do in this life? What speaks to you? As my favorite philosophy professor said, this is a bold thing, but he would say, how do you want to die? Like think bigger than what are you going to major in, right? Like how's the movie going to look on your deathbed when it plays back? And then we go into executive function systems, that you need for college and beyond. Like how can we go from ideas to implementation, from dreaming to doing? And then the third part is like just the skills of being in college or taking a gap year, of socializing on campus, navigating a syllabus, all those elements.
Yeah, which you don't even have to be 2E to need all of those things.
No, everyone. I get that email every so often, like, hey, my kids may be 2E. I'm like, well, if you're here, you're in the right place. Like, have you found me? Something's not working, and you're looking for something else. So.
That is absolutely magnificent. All right, what if you had a homeschool parent come to you and say, my young person is neurodivergent and I can't find their strengths. What would you say to them about that?
I share have you seen that cartoon of the teacher at the desk and all the animals?
Yeah.
I said that. I usually send that. I have that on my desktop so I can rapid fire it out. But the idea that like, excuse me, they just haven't been asked the right questions, right? Or they're just not in the right context. And Dr. Renzulli, who's like the mentor to my mentor, Dr. Joseph Renzulli mentored Dr. Susan Baum, and she was my mentor, is my mentor. And the idea, everybody has varying degrees of strengths, right, and talents and interests. And Dr. Renzulli said, instead of giftedness, we have gifted abilities, and gifted abilities occur at certain times, in certain people, in certain contexts, in certain settings. So I think that a lot of times it's just the setting, right? If we have a kid who's a monkey and we're asking them to, dive deep into the ocean, that's not their strength. The goldfish might shine there, but we just haven't seen them. So a lot of times we just have to expose them to a bunch of different things, right? And that's kind of that Renzulli's model, is that we start with like general exploration, right? And then we go into more deep work, which pivots to eventually independent, authentic work. And that's really the like pedagogical principle upon which we were founded, is expose kids to a bunch of stuff that they're not getting. Our kids are so curious. Like the thing that they're doing on Reddit or Wikipedia is probably way more exciting and interesting than what they're doing in history class. And so why don't we just make history class more like that? Right. So that's kind of the model. And then we get kids shining. I mean, I use this anecdote a lot, but think of George Lucas, right? Like at some point, some teacher was yelling at George to put his doodles away, right?
Right.
Some teacher was like, put your robots away, it's math time. And look at him now. Right. So a lot of the times the things that are getting our kids in trouble, banging on a desk, well, maybe they're going to be a drummer in a metal band. I don't know. So I think I'm really a huge proponent for building that positive self-esteem around talent exploration.
Yeah. It reminds me of my friend, Anita Gibson, who wrote a book called Starfinder. And she says, the thing that's irritating you about your kid is probably one of their strengths you want to lean into and help them discover and develop. And so this is what you've got here at the Village. So it's Young Scholars Academy. So tell folks how to get in touch with you and to learn more about the Academy.
Yeah. So, and I'll say a couple quick things because we're making a bunch of changes this year. So we're going to be serving young. I mean, you and I just spoke mainly about like the lengthier adulting kind of older student courses, but we're bringing a kindergarten program on. So we're going to be I know it's we have the cutest classes, by the way. We've got we have a fitness class, which is a superhero escape room class. So it's so cool. We have like really fun STEAM classes where they're doing like geology experiments at home and just such amazing programming. So we've got so we serve 5 to 18-year-olds, and we break that up into like 4 different age cohorts. And we have I think it's like 30 different courses that are happening at over 70 hours a week.
Wow.
So excuse me. My allergies are going crazy, so sorry. But so we've got a bunch of different things going on. We're at youngscholarsacademy.org would be the best place to find us, and then from there you can check everything out. So you'll see the courses, the camps. As mentioned, the camps are like 5 days, Monday through Friday, and then the courses run 8 weeks to 9 months. And we feature 2 key elements. One is I call the X and the Y axis. So one is like-minded friends in a small class setting. So, most of our homeschool families, their biggest concern is like, I've got this kid, they're not making friends, right? Or I worry my kid's isolated, or they're addicted to. And again, humans are dopamine chasers, right? So we go, especially people with ADHD, autism. So we found that the key is just getting a bunch of kids that are similar together.
Yes.
And allow them to kind of find that in one another. And so, the research is really clear, like asynchronous quirky kids need one another. And that's exactly what we're doing. So the ingredient 1 is having those kids together like that. Ingredient 2 is having these neurodivergent mentors who are like the kids growing up who can say, hey kid, I'm interested in this. I'm a subject master and it's going to be okay because I'm older. Look, I've made it.
Awesome.
So I kind of answered your question in a roundabout way, but youngscholarsacademy.org is the website, and you can see all the different offerings we have.
I really encourage parents of our neurodivergent kids, go check out the website if nothing else and read the blog posts. They're just absolutely like encouraging, like what, and then see what they've got that might fit your teens, and give them a place where their strengths are valued and they're not less than. So anyway, thanks Sam for what you're doing.
Thank you, Vicki. I mean, I think teenage years, to kind of close, it's just it's such an important time, and it really, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but it often can go like anyway, right? And we have so many kids. If you look on the website, you'll see like there's moms like crying and saying like that this saved their kid or this helped their kid, and this work that and it's not just here, by the way, it's anyone doing strength-based work anywhere in the world, right? But it's helping kids feel good, helping remove them from that dark black hole of I stink, I'm stupid, I struggle, right? Because I spent much of high school and college taking focus medicine, which affects my mood. I still struggle with that. With the comorbidities, right? I bring awareness to that. I tell kids all the time, I have ADHD, which means I also struggle with anxiety and depression. And it's important to share that. Let them know I have days when I struggle to get out of bed, and I have days when I just can't wait to get out of bed, right? And that's how it goes. And I kind of put my arm around it and so forth. But having that modeling, having the mentors model that and let them know it's going to be okay. And I see you, and I felt what you feel, and I think that's so important, and with teenagers is so rewarding because they're just so close to getting to when things get better, right? And it's just they're so close. They just need someone like the hero story, right? They just need that mentor to help them cross the threshold.
And I love on the website there's a blog post and it talks about the hero's journey. And we know a lot of our kids have enjoyed writing myth fantasy because it helps them connect with that kind of thing in their own soul. Okay. All right. So youngscholarsacademy.org, and you can connect there and just find some really cool resources. So thank you, Sam, for joining us today.
Thank you, Vicki. I appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for holding space for all these families who need you. You're amazing.
It's so much fun. Well, this has been the Homeschool High School podcast, brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. And we thank you very much, Sam Young at Young Scholars Academy, and our editor, Seth Tillman. And we will look forward to talking to you all next week. All right. Bye-bye.